Welcome back, I'm Tedward, and today, thanks to Acton Auto Boutique in Acton, Massachusetts, we're driving a 2013 BMW M5 with a manual 6-speed transmission. This is pretty exciting because maybe back in the day when you were ordering your $92,000 base price M5, you'd want to get that DCT because you want to be faster to 60 miles an hour with your S63 4.4 liter twin turbo V8 pushing 560 horsepower. But today, in a world where we're losing touch with the sensations of an automobile, the manual is the way to go, and suddenly this thing looks mighty appealing. So the F10 was a big phase shift because this is the first M5 to get a turbo engine. So that definitely caused some consternation amongst M enthusiasts. But you know what? We've got a lot more things to complain about these days than turbos, and this provided a ton of torque. It was a monster, and it's sending all of that power to the rear wheels. The S63 was kind of a massaged version of the engine that was used in the X5M. We've got our turbos wedged there in the middle. This was certainly a departure from the previous car, the E60 M5, which had a naturally aspirated V10. So we went back to the roots like an E39 M5 with a V8, except that now we're making it slightly more efficiently and with more torque in the mid-range and down low. Up front, we have two 65s. In the rear, we're putting it all down with two 95 section tires, and we've got some mighty big 6-piston calipers to bring us back down to earth. Now, the M5 is all about luxury, and that means we've got soft closed doors all around, proper sunshades to make sure that our rear passengers are comfortable. And even back here, we've got pretty sweet HVAC controls and heated rear seats. Up front, we do have massage seats, which is lovely. But I do like the layout of this cabin. It's like kind of an E92 meets 7 Series vibe. It's very interesting. And the character of the M5 has always been to be a wolf in sheep's clothing. It is fairly understated. I mean, we do have M5 badges around the car, but it doesn't look like anything particularly outrageous. So let's jump in and take it for a ride and see how this 6-speed manual suits the character of a turbo M5. I've got the key fob in my pocket. We're in neutral. We'll give it the clutch. Rising up out of the center dashboard. I guess our tweeters, kind of cool. Actually did not know that was a thing in these cars. Put it in Sport Plus. Pretty rev happy engine. The revs come down fast. That's sporty. Let's see if we can get the sunshade back. All right, Alcantara headliner. First thing you notice on this clutch pedal, there is what I assume to be a fairly beefy helper spring. Gotta be a little cautious when you're letting it out. As we're getting up to temp, we don't need to push it too hard, but you're fully aware, even with a little bit of throttle, that it wants to go. This thing is kind of a monster. And in sport mode, it's giving me automatic blips for my downshifts. When you go into Sport Plus, you've got to do it yourself. Now, that's the correct way to do this. Somehow, Porsche has gotten it in their head that the other way around is what people want, and that is just purely incorrect. If you're in Sport Plus, you should be rowing your own gears and doing all of the things. She's 4,300 pounds. Certainly not a lightweight, but that's the beauty of an M car. They always still seem to feel agile. What's interesting about this is because we've got these turbos, we've got more low-end grunt. Now, you do have to wait for those turbos to spool up a little bit when you're down low. I mean, if you keep the revs up, then you're going to be just fine and well within boost at all times. But the car, I mean, this is fast, you know, and it's got a lot of grunt. I mean, my goodness, this thing gets out of the hole. That is actually a real treat. Very grabby clutch as well. It wants to just get in there and put the power back down to the wheels. But what I'm finding to be just really refreshing is that I don't need to dig really hard into the revs to get the power and get the torque out of it. This is good for an M5 because what you want out of your M5 is a great daily driver. You want something that you can survive traffic in, something that you don't always need to be at like 6,000–7,000 RPM like you did in an E92 M3. And this just makes a lot of sense. You're up to speed very quickly in this car. So what's fun about it is that although you certainly would be able to go faster and hit those 0 to 60 times more consistently in a DCT car, this is actually a nice package. This is an entertaining and tactile manual driving experience. Sometimes we get cars like the new M4. I really just wouldn't recommend getting a new M3 or M4 in a manual transmission. I just don't think it suits the car. It doesn't really make any sense. Whereas like this actually feels like it's appropriate. I love it because you just dip into the revs a little bit. And I'm really impressed with the way this differential is putting the power down. I mean, traction control clearly stepping in at a moment's notice because it wants to tear the rear tires off. I mean, they are 295. That sounds large, but in the grand scheme, we're dealing with a lot of torque. So that's not a mega amount of grip back there. A little push from that front end. To be expected. I mean, this is a big girl. She tucks in if you're patient. Bit of time on the upshift for those turbos to spool back up. Just a hair. It's just like a fraction of a second where you're like, ooh, there it is. We got to get back into boost, which is interesting because it's kind of entertaining. It gives you more character from the car, whereas if you had the DCT, the shifts would be so fast that you wouldn't ever feel that. But it's not so egregious, and this is probably not a very relatable experience, but in a Mercedes SL65 AMG Black Series with monster turbos and a V12, that car between shifts with this slow automatic 5-speed, you really do notice a lag between shifts where like those turbos are coming back in. This is not quite that, but I will say, you know, you do notice that you're waiting just a beat, just a half a beat. The way it pulls to redline is really nice. That's very characteristic of BMW as well. And that's what you want. You want that BMW character. I think anyone coming into this car was looking for the next phase. And my goodness, is it tough to beat the driving experience of an E60 M5. That's tough to accomplish. Behaves well on and off throttle too. Like you can just manipulate the rotation of the car perfectly. Oh, stopping on an on-ramp is not a great move, buddy. Now we can tap into this torque too without downshifting. There's 6th gear, just leaning into it a little bit. you're never going to have that need to downshift for a minor pass unless you're just trying to be outrageous. It's pretty impressive how it tucks into a corner, though, I've got to say. A little push there, but you lift out the throttle, it brings that right back around. It's wonderful. Now, seeing as this car is for sale, we're going to be nice to it. However, there is just this delicious urge to turn off all of the nannies and make it go very sideways in a giant cloud of smoke, because this is kind of the point where BMW M cars started to become a little more brutal. They started to become a little more like those Mercedes AMG cars that they were fighting against, because now instead of just having all this beautiful power up top, they had torque and they had grunt, and this thing is just ready to smoke the tires. It's fantastic, and I do find that to be charming, and if it's done well, it's great. The newest M cars, they feel a little more clunky. I mean, this certainly doesn't hide its weight that well, but I do feel like I'm not flopping around in the car. And the new M5, really, really incredible. I will say though, the new M3, M4, not really doing it for me. And if I were in the market for a new M3, M4, and maybe I was, had a taste for nostalgia, the F10 M5 might be the bargain way to get what you want out of the new car in an old car. Jesus, people just crush double yellows in their minivans. Don't get it. I don't get it, man. That's all right. We're safe in our monster M5. So around town, I mean, that's the thing that's nice about these cars, is that you can just kind of cruise and putter along. And because we've got, a nice, healthy 4.4 liter V8, we don't need all the revs. We can just kind of ease in and out of that throttle as we please. Massage seats are fun. There's a lot more going on in the butt than I need, though. It's kind of doing one of these on me. I want more in the back, but that's fine. That's fine. I'm not complaining. Beggars can't be choosers when it comes to a massage seat. Love a crane. I want to drive a crane. Does anyone have a crane that I can drive in a closed course? I know I'm probably not legally allowed to drive that on a public road, but, I think we could arrange something, right? Burble from that exhaust, kind of nice. So that's the F10 M5. I'm actually genuinely impressed with the car. I think at the time, I didn't understand it. I felt like it had too much torque. It maybe didn't have the same BMW character that I was looking for, that I was used to in, say, my E39 M5. But today, knowing what we know now, knowing where we know a BMW has gone, this F10 actually feels like a little diamond in the rough. And I think a lot of people forget about them. It's a good car. And because it's rear-wheel drive, it does have a lot of that old school BMW charm where you've got to manage that rear end. So thanks to Acton Auto Boutique for tossing me the keys to this beauty. Thank you guys so much for watching, liking, commenting, and subscribing. Don't forget to respect the drive, and I'll see you in the next one.